In this video, we're going to create two different column charts. Column charts are best when you have a qualitative, or what we also call a categorical variable, that has more than two categories, and you want to be able to easily compare the categories to see which one is most popular. Microsoft Forms can also create these ones automatically for you. First, we're going to create a column, or what's sometimes called a bar chart, for how old were you when you first tried tobacco. Again, I can't just select the column and insert a column chart because first I need to make a pivot table. That's because I've got this qualitative information, and the pivot table is going to give me a count of how many people fall in each category. I'm going to place my pivot table somewhere in my existing sheet, and because I'm only dealing with one category, our general rule is take that variable you're interested in, how old were you when you first tried tobacco, and put it in the rows. That's going to tell you all the different possibilities for the categories. Then drag it again into the values. That does your math part, where it actually counts up the number of people in each category for you. Once you've got the pivot table, you're going to go to your Insert tab, and here is the column and bar chart option. In Excel, when your columns are vertical, or your bars, you can call them, are vertical, that's what's called a column chart. Whereas if they go the other way and they're horizontal, that's what we call a bar chart. The column chart is much more popular and much more common. The only time people usually use bar charts are when the category names are really, really long, or if there's some kind of reason to put the bars horizontally. Otherwise, it's usually easier to read the column chart. So we're going to go with that option to be able to compare when people first started smoking. And the great thing about this column chart is instead of having to look through all the different age ranges, the chart makes it super clear that 14 to 16 years old is the most popular age for trying cigarettes for the first time. I just need to edit this a little bit because it doesn't have any labels. First, I'm going to add an overall title. And next, on the vertical axis, if I go to my Design tab and add chart element, I'm going to put in an axis title that just tells you this is the frequency, so how many people are in each of these categories. If you wanted, you could even add a count above these bars by adding in a data label if you wanted. If you scroll through here, it would show you what all the options look like, for example, but that's just an optional touch that you can add to a column chart. So this is the basic column chart option, and again, this is probably the most popular chart for any qualitative or categorical variable because it allows for easy comparison to see which one is the most popular and which one is the least popular. You can get into more complicated column charts if you want to compare two variables at a time. Again, to do that with qualitative or categorical information, that's the only type we're talking about in this video. Anytime you want to make this kind of chart and you've got all of the actual category names listed out, you've got to make your pivot table first. So I'm going to start with another pivot table, select my relevant tabular range, and put the last pivot table in my existing worksheet again. This time I want to show you guys how to focus on two variables. So I'm still going to use how old were you when you first tried tobacco products, basically make the same table as before. But this time, not only do I want to examine how old you were, I'm also going to see if there's any kind of relationship between when you first tried smoking and if you're currently a smoker. So to do that, I'm going to also drag and drop my "Are you currently a smoker" variable into the columns. The table extended a little bit, so let me just drag this chart down and we can see our whole table. How you read the table is that, for example, people who tried it when they're 10 years or younger, one person tried smoking for the first time at 10 years or younger and is not currently a smoker. 0 people tried smoking for the first time 10 years or younger and, yes, are currently a smoker. 3 people tried between 11 and 13 and they are not smokers. 2 people tried between 11 and 13 for the first time and they are currently smokers. So it gives you the counts of people that fall into all combinations of both categories, and that combination piece is really important. What I wanted to talk about as our last chart is how we show this in a good display, a good visual display. I'm going to go to Insert, and when you have two qualitative or categorical variables that you want to look for a relationship between, your best option is always going to be a column chart, but this time it's actually going to have two different colored bars to represent the second variable. I'm going to make this a lot bigger of a chart because it has more going on. In this case, I still have all of my age categories, but now instead of only having the green bars for the total of when people first tried smoking, we have two different bars. The green one representing people who are not currently smokers, and the beige one representing people who are currently smokers. To make that clear, you should add in an overall chart title. I'm going to call it something like age when first tried tobacco products by smoking status. And just like before, I'm also going to add in a vertical axis title to say that this is the count of people that fall in each category. And this chart is almost a combination of what we saw before. The smoking status pie chart showed us how many people were smokers and how many people weren't smokers. The basic column chart for age when people first tried tobacco showed us the frequency that people fell into the various age groups. And this chart shows us the counts of people that have both traits, when they started smoking and are they currently a smoker or not. One important note about this type of display is that the bars don't touch. Notice that there's space between the bars, and that's to represent distinct categories, that they're not for the same thing, they're for two different things, and the color also helps us distinguish that. So in summary, for our qualitative data, there are two main types of charts. Pie charts when you have 2 or 3 categories, and whenever you have more categories, you can make a column chart. Column charts are also really flexible because you can use them when you're also looking at more than one variable to actually try to look for relationships between them.